All right, Spencer, did you see the invitation? I sent you a request to join, and you should see it. Like I said, the picture in a picture. So you should have in your notifications the invitation for you to join. All right, Spencer, did you see it? All right. So, Alex, thank you for hanging out with us. I appreciate you tuning in. We have some amazing people that tune in every single week to Visionary Empaths Live. So, again, for those of us who are not familiar with what an empath is, it's individuals who are able to take the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of other people into themselves. And so, the visionary aspect of it is those of us who have been called to be a greater service to humanity. So, that could be in the form of being a teacher, educator, mentor, light worker, those of us that have feel that we have a higher calling and summoning to be a greater service to humanity. So Spence, hey Leslie, Brianna, thank you for coming back. Spence, check your notifications, but you should have an invitation to join. Yes, we are back. So Spence, if you can wave and let me know that you're on the page. Then this way we can get you on. All right. All right. Yay. All right, Spencer, I think you had it. Click it again. Click whatever that was that you clicked again. I'm going to bring you on. Okay, perfect. Sandra, ¿cómo te va? ¿Cómo estás? Ojalá que todo está bien contigo. Esta es mi amiga mejor, mi hermana. Muchísimas gracias para mirando con nosotros. All right, Spence, hit it again. Okay, keep working while you're listening. See en español. Hey, for those of you who don't know, I'm also bilingual. All right. Spence, it's just giving it a second here. Says that I'm adding you. Yay!
Can you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you fine. You're perfect.
Man, that was
Wasn't that crazy?
crazy.
It's like one of those
No,
things,
that
like you
was
got to do it
crazy.
one time, but after you do it, then you're good.
Yeah, that was on my laptop. So listen, I'm just glad I'm
Yes,
here.
we are so happy. Oh my goodness, we are so happy to have you. So we've got a full line.
So-
I know folks got questions. They're ready for you. So, my brother, I have set you up talking about your book. This,
All right.
yeah, yeah,
You got me?
we got you.
Okay.
We got you. That's Tia. Tia said,
Excellent.
"Hello, family. How you doing, Tia?" So, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Spencer Murray is a member of Transforming Love Community who is bringing him in on this weekend to talk about his book. And we're going to take a deep dive into this work around patriarchy and reconciliation of both
Yeah.
masculine and feminine, and the necessity that it is that we have this conversation, and we have this conversation right now. Um, and what propelled you to even write this book in the first place, and what you want people to get out of it. So, without further ado, Dr. Spencer Murray.
Thank you. Thank you. So, you can hear me
Oh, we
well,
can hear you
right?
great.
Oh, perfectly. So, originally, I'll tell you the truth. I'll be very, very practical. In my life, as in many people's lives, relationships have always been one of my biggest. It always taught me some of my most profound learning
Mm-hmm.
lessons to relationships. And so, I'd always wanted to ask the question. When I learned the lessons, or relationships didn't turn out the way they wanted, or or they just weren't fruitful at the time. I always asked the question why. I always wanted to go deeper into why. And
Mm.
so, I began a process of looking at myself. I had started that spiritual path of looking at myself. You hear that statement, every time you point the finger at someone, three of them are pointing back at you. So you
Mm.
need to look at yourself as to why you're attracting what you're attracting and what is going on with you, because everywhere you go, there you are.
There you are.
Um, there you are. And so, fast forward, I moved to Georgia and got into a doctor program called Conflict Transformation.
Yes.
And just the name itself just was really intriguing. And so
Yeah.
when I got into the program, took the classes and all that. And so it came time to decide what I wanted to do my dissertation on. And so, and also the school was in a New York Theological Seminary. So it wasn't a seminary. So I had to bring in the spiritual component to it as well. And so, I wanted to look at, how images, how media images, how narratives have affected the way we've seen each other,
Mm.
how it affects the way we see different races of people,
Mm-hmm.
just the impact of those images and symbols that we see. And so I began to look at it and ask myself, how have the images that I've seen, how have the ways that women have been portrayed in the Bible and in religion and media and all those things, how has it affected my view of women? And I knew it began to open my eyes as I began to ask the question. I began to study different things. And when I say it opened my eyes, it was like I was blind. I was blind. I think it's impossible for one to say they're true humanitarian and know the violence that is going on with our sisters, with our women, and with men too, of course. But certainly those numbers are far outweigh the numbers of men perpetrators, far outweigh the number of women perpetrators. And so, in looking at relationships, I wanted to ask myself that. And so, um, I took a dive into looking at how religion and patriarchal views of religion, how women were portrayed and shown, um, have affected our perception of women and our concept of women, and how that plays out in real life in our practical lives. And what I found was just profound. What I found doing my research was really profound. I say to anybody, if you're talking to one of our white brothers and sisters, and they say, well, I want to know about the Black experience, but I haven't talked to anyone Black. I don't have any Black friends. I don't know how to start that conversation. Whereas there's plenty of books you can read to learn about the Black
That's right.
experience. When I began to read feminist literature and doing my work, it began to transform me, uh, because this issue is one that our sisters and our women have been talking about for centuries. Have been talking about that, and so. Um, for my eyes now to be open, I not only were my eyes open, but I began to look at ways that I might have been even emotionally and psychologically violent. Most
Yeah.
men would say, "Hey, I've never physically abused anybody. I've never done that," but the violence is expanded in so many ways, um, not only physical but financial, but spiritual. psychological, all these things. And so it just took me on the road, and I finished the dissertation and turned it into a book. Finished the dissertation in 2016 and wanted to turn that into a book, which was published in November 2018. So, I mean, the road continues. Um, and so I just want to thank you for having me. I want to thank you for being an
Absolutely.
ally. I want to thank you
Yeah.
for this opportunity. But yeah, it's the work continues, and so I want to help inspire everybody else, particularly my brothers, to see this, to raise awareness, and to be allies in the work toward eliminating this violence. You know, being
Absolutely.
aware
So
of it.
yeah, so on our timeline, we do have a producer, my good friend and my brother. He razzes me. He went to Cast Tech, but he's a producer.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
Cast Tech.
yeah,
Alex Kimbrough, who's always advocating for fair
yes,
narrative,
yeah.
storytelling, and so in your work and the research of putting the book together, and give us that book title one more time.
Conspiracy of silence. Conspiracy of silence. How religion and patriarchy oppress women.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so please, everyone that is on Amazon, you can purchase it, and he will be here this weekend, and you will have hard copies, yes, with you this weekend for purchase.
Yes, yes, I have paperback with me. It is on Amazon right now. You can get it in Kindle and paperback, and then I'll have books with me too. And anybody who attends those events will get the book at a discounted rate as well, for $10.
$10, wonderful.
Yeah,
So as
yeah,
unravel, of course, this, and anytime we call truth to power, it makes people not
yeah,
only uncomfortable, but it brings about an onslaught of embarrassment
yes,
and backpedaling,
yes,
justification, the
yes.
shirking of
Ex-
responsibility, that wasn't my ancestor,
Exactly,
or I didn't do it, I wasn't a part of this. um,
exactly,
but
exactly.
how do we, and no pun intended, how do we wash the blood from our hands if we are not willing to, which I love so eloquently in the forward of the book, how your wife describes it, your apology, your gap stand.
Yeah,
No, you didn't
yes,
directly do it, but your gap
exactly,
stand.
exactly,
Yeah. So
exactly,
tell us
exactly.
how
And
we can gap stand to help move this conversation forward.
yeah, I mean, first you have to name it. You know, any with anything, if you can't name it, you can't change it. And I have always been in search of truth, and want to be honest, and of high character and very transparent. And so, and Erica will tell you, she'll be here too. She'll be in Detroit, and we'll sit on the panel as well on Saturday, and she will speak to that as well. But that was a very poignant moment. It's a very emotional moment uh, when I apologized to her, because I didn't just stand in the gap for other brothers. Um, I apologized because I might have been one of those brothers myself in the past. You understand what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
In the sense of oneness, I'm offering reconciliation to myself and to her. And so it was a huge moment where we both shed some tears in that moment. So you have to name it. One of the things you mentioned earlier that's so important, um, is I don't see how anyone or any brother can know the damage that has been done to people black and brown and people of color. You know, and you hear all the denials of people, you hear all that, and not consider that all oppression is connected. That that the same goes for male privilege. The same goes for this is in a white supremacist system. All these things are connected. You know, so it doesn't exist in a vacuum either. Um, but it's very tough to look at self. As you know, on this path, it takes work.
Ooh.
I mean, if you really have to be committed to looking at self and being honest with yourself, and sometimes seeing things that you don't like. And but if you can't name it, you can't heal it. Whether it's individual or collective, or in the work that you do. And so this whole work was born out of my own personal desire to change and see something through a different lens, not just the lens of my maleness, not just the lens of my maleness or being a man. As I've seen things, I'm sure Erica will be able to tell you that she's sensed the change in me as well. And I know um, I know that has happened, but you have to name that uh,
Mm-hmm.
and know that in the sense of oneness, when you stand in the gap, you're doing it for yourself, you're doing
That's
it for the
right.
community,
Come on.
you're doing it for everybody.
You're doing it
You
for
know,
everybody. And I think it's also
yeah, you
important to
are.
mention the lessons that we learn silently. I noticed that you mentioned in the
Yes,
book too how you watched the dynamic of gender roles play out between your parents, even though it wasn't necessarily said, men do this, women do that.
yes,
You watch the
yes.
interaction and it
I
taught
did.
you through
Yeah,
behavior.
exactly. It
Yeah.
sure did.
And you use
It
an
sure did.
interesting word,
Yeah, I mean,
compliant. You learned how to be compliant. I thought that word was a very interesting word for you
exactly.
to use. Could you
Yeah,
say more
I
about that?
learned how to be compliant. Exactly. Which a lot of people in religion learn to be compliant.
Come on.
Religion sometimes
Let's
teaches
talk
you
about
to
it.
be compliant,
Mm-hmm.
to just follow the rules, to just do what you're supposed to do, the rules and the dogma and all those things in religion. It comes from that. But I certainly learned that
Yeah.
in being compliant. Um, I think men and women, and this is why I talk about religion, um, live according to this need to be perfect. You know what I
Mm.
mean? This need to try to live up to other people's expectations, to try to please people, to do all that. But yeah, I watched them, and it wasn't until I began to do this project that I began to really look at my mom's and my dad's relationship and be able to see it clearly.
Mm-hmm.
I had an idea. I had an idea of what it was like, and doing this work and being on this path for a while. But I really began to see it clearly, and those ideas of masculinity were reinforced by the school, the church, the playground, everywhere I grew up. You know what I mean? And you know, some of it is generational. I mean, my dad, mom would be if they were living 90, 95, and 96 this year. You
Okay.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, all the men in my family and around me were, that's the way they were.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, but your secrets keep you sick. Your secrets keep you sick. And so the family goes around holding secrets and not being able to talk and not being able to communicate, not being able to emote your feelings, particularly men. Um, I certainly think it contributed to my dad's passing at 59 years old. He's only 59 years old.
So
So
yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah, and I think that it's important, like
definitely.
you said, the passing because of the repression of the swallowing of the
Yeah,
emotions, not being able to
yeah,
express because there's certain labels that are placed
exactly,
on men who emote or who can
exactly.
articulate their
Yeah,
feelings. There's a stigma put around that. Oh, he
yeah,
must be a homosexual. He's soft,
yes,
and it's not
weak.
normalized. Weak. It's not normalized that
Yeah,
we um, express our feelings. And I would, from observation, your former educator to educator, how our boys
yes,
behaved in school, the need for
yes,
to express dominance or sometimes the challenge
yeah,
between teacher student dynamic
yeah,
was more almost a play theatrics to
yeah,
establish my
yes,
dominance. So I'm acting out in the way that I
yeah,
have learned that male behavior is.
yes,
So to be loud, take up space, that
yes,
proximity. I'm gonna take up space because
yes,
this is what I believe male
exactly.
behavior, strong male behavior to be.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and it's reinforced by videos. It's reinforced by the media. It's reinforced by, and as you know, so we'll be in Saturday in the
Yes.
workshop, and I'll work with men before the women come in. I'll work with men. And you look at some of those images that, when you look at the images, they speak of power and domination. and what a man is supposed to be and what a woman is supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
and it plays out in real life. It plays out in real life, and I don't think anyone can think that those messages don't go in to us and affect our consciousness and perceptions, because they do.
They do.
Because they do. And I'm not saying all men. And this is why, you mentioned it earlier. This is why we're talking about systems, right? We're talking about systems. And so I think when you first start talking about things like this, if you're talking about racism, all white people think you're calling them racist, or all men, like you're indicting. I'm not indicting every man. I'm talking about the system of patriarchy and what it has done to all of us. And I
Mm-hmm.
think men need to realize that. We all need to realize that, um, instead of getting on the defensive and think that someone is attacking. Because sometimes I think in the era, in this Me Too movement, which is past due, it is time. I think, men feel like, as in someone, in the white supremacist, they might feel like our time is up. Now, so we have to hold on to our power because someone is coming to take our power. Um, or the Me Too movement is about all men. It's about men shaming, or shaming a man, or you know, it's so many. All those things are kind of like a denial, a
Right.
denial of what's true and what's right in
And that's
front of
why I
your
said, yeah,
face
when we get
because
into
of the
those
number.
conversations, then we start to get
Yeah,
embarrassed
yeah,
and we try to step out of it. And then
exactly.
sort of broad stroke, we start painting things with broad stroke. And I
Exactly.
think, like you said, calling it forward, putting a name on it and
Yeah,
calling what it is, the system, the white
exactly.
male supremacy, like being very, very, very,
Exactly.
very specific about who the culprit
Exactly.
is, right?
Yes.
And then how we're
Yes.
participating, how all of us are
Yeah.
are
All of us are
participating. And
participating.
I loved,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have a good girlfriend who's raising a male, who's raising a young man,
Okay.
raising a black boy. And it was interesting, these notions of how we love our sons but raise our daughters.
Wow. Yeah. That's interesting.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I saw that play out, particularly my years as an educator, in Detroit, and helping to run a mentorship program man to man in the city for a number of years. And seeing that it do with a lot of dynamics. Sometimes it's the male absence in the household,
Ooh.
the male absence, that has to do with that. Sometimes it was, trying to overcompensate for that absence, in a sense. All these things. But if we don't realize what the system is doing,
That's right.
then the the oppressed will then become the
Come on.
oppressor, and then we start
Yes.
imitating, what others have done, because we're indoctrinated by a system,
Yes, that we
by
begin
the whole system.
to your
Yeah,
point, pick up,
yeah,
I believe it was Dr. Chinea over at Latin Latino Studies, and we were talking about post-slavery, and that how
yeah,
you become so indoctrinated that you pick up the value system of the oppressor.
exactly,
And so you
exactly.
become so detached and removed from who you are, and
Yes,
you become indoctrinated to the oppressor's value system. And
that's
that's why
right.
we see what we
That's right.
see in the music videos. We see a multitude of women.
That's right.
We see big
That's right.
homes. We see very expensive
Yeah,
vehicles. We see money
yeah,
raining. We see
yes.
alcohol in excess,
We see
everything
alcohol. Yes,
in excess. And that
yeah,
inebriation is
and
almost
that's
celebrated. You're
that's right.
celebrated being,
Yeah.
out of yourself. And of course, that's also medication for pain. We
Yes,
know on a
yes,
spiritual level
yeah,
what it really is.
yes,
And
yes.
if you could speak to that, the how do we then move forward after we've identified what the issues are? What are some tangibles that we can do to help uh, be an answer, be a remedy?
Well, I think one of the techniques is, and this is where men, particularly men, will really have to look at themselves, because we can't be innocent bystanders anymore. Um, and so being silent is being complicit almost. And so, When we are sitting in the barber shop and we hear conversations, that are demeaning to women, around other men,
Barbershop talk.
when we're in sports, when we're around sports, when we're around fraternity, we're all those things. We have to really check ourselves because what we're really afraid of, many times when men are complicit and they're silent in those moments when they can say something. They're afraid of being ostracized from the man club. And that's one thing I said in the book is that even writing the book was a challenge for me because I knew putting this out there, there was a social fear of me being kicked out of the man club. And
Mm-hmm.
I've written on this in times before, and guys have said to me, "Why are you telling all of our secrets? Why are you saying this? And it seems like what you're saying is coming against men." You know what I mean? And it's we just cannot be silent anymore. So I think not being um, certainly not being just a silent bystander when you see those things going on.
That's
I
right.
believe there are many organizations in the community that are addressing these issues. Sasha is one of them, as you know. What you're doing is one of them. Joshua and Kaliman Johnson and Omari Barksdale will be present Saturday helping to facilitate.
Give us some times
You
because
can
I
get
want people
involved with
there.
those.
Yeah, give us the time. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. But you can get involved with those organizations. Um, we could begin to, as many of our sisters have already done, start writing to media organizations about how women are portrayed in the media and on television and things like that. I think um, the first step for men to do is be aware and to see it. They have to see it. And I'll tell you, Ber-Henda, it's so embedded. Patriarchy is so embedded, and this system is so embedded that me I didn't even see it. I was doing spiritual work, and speaking and being a minister, and I just didn't see it. But then when I saw it, I realized this, that most of the pain that I've experienced is from my indoctrination in the patriarchy and from living up to a culture, elements culture of this toxic masculinity. And that pain is deep. And for me, and I speak on it transparently, very transparent oftentimes. For me, it was almost fatal, because I didn't see it, but yet I was feeling all the pain from it, from the conflicting nature of feeling these things and not being able to emote and express them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, if you feel all these things and you're not able to express them, any mental health expert will tell you that it can turn into depression, it can turn into isolation. You can numb the feelings with alcohol, with drugs, with marijuana, whatever that is. And then it just becomes a cycle an endless cycle of, not expressing yourself, drugs to numb the feelings, violence, substance abuse, and all those things. And so we have to see that, and then we have to link up with other men. And that's why I'm so happy to meet my brother Omari. And I already knew Omari from Facebook,
Yeah.
of course, but now to facilitate with him and now start a thing where we'll be doing that together. And so we have to gather other men to do that as well. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And another thing I do, Ber-Henda, that really continues to reinforce this lesson to me is
Yeah.
I teach men in DeKalb County Jail. I teach men um, about the culture of toxic masculinity, and I teach transformative forces there. So as I teach it, I learn it because it's impossible to teach without learning. I continue to reinforce it for myself, and I see the learning in them, and so it just inspires me further to keep moving. But we have to teach it, we have to speak it, we have to be brave, we have to be courageous, but we cannot be silent anymore. We have to speak to it. We really have to speak. We can't be silent
No,
anymore.
no. And I think that it's really
Mm.
important, this work um, that you're doing. And it seems, and maybe this has been with you and it's evolving itself. You've had a certain
Yes,
sensitivity toward this work your whole life.
yes,
You've had a certain
yes,
inclination.
yes,
And so when we talk
yes,
about the spiritual aspect of things and the spiritual work, many times there's a blanketed statement, I'll pray for you.
yes,
Let's
yes,
go to God on it.
Yeah, I know. I
Just
know.
simply Jesus will fix it. How do
Exactly.
you speak to those of us in the church where, yes, that's the simple answer? And of course, we know prayer works. Prayer is an energy, it's a vibration. It's probably the most important tool that we have in our arsenal. However,
It certainly
the
is.
blanketed statement, or I love this one, love and light.
Exactly. Exactly.
How do we
Exactly.
truly love, and how do we put true light on it in real context, that it becomes not just a placation?
Exactly. Well, first we have to stop hiding behind religion. I think many people just are hiding behind religion. So it's one thing to be saved, it's another thing to be healed. Yeah.
Mm.
Many
Ooh, come
many
on, say
people
that.
are in the church. Many people in the church consider themselves saved, but they're not healed. Um, and you can tell by looking at the results in their life oftentimes. And so, um, you know, I think, and I'm not, and certainly I'm not an advocate um, against church, but you know what? Some of the most trying times in my life, I found truth when I stopped going to church.
Mm,
You
mm-hmm.
know, I found truth, and then I was led to somewhere. I looked for truth inside of me. I turned that light on inside of me
That's right.
first, and then I was led to a place. I was led to a place that had a like teaching, or a like-minded teaching to what I was becoming. So this whole idea of going to church and just teaching that is sort of external. It's knowing. It's one thing to know about God, and it's one thing to know yourself as God, to
Mm-hmm.
know yourself, male and female, as that inside. And
Mm-hmm.
so, that is a tough thing. I will say that I am committed to doing this work, particularly in that area. In that area, and if I spoke to it, and I think it was chapter 1 or 2 of the book. And that we also have to realize when people say, well, it's in the Bible. If it's in the Bible, everything's fine. We also
Ooh.
have to realize the context of the Bible. We have to read who wrote the Bible, the context of the Bible. We have to rightly divide the word of truth. The Bible has some great things, life-changing things. There's no question about it.
Right.
We have to rightly divide the word of truth, and realize that the Bible also, there's a reason why women are portrayed the way they are in the
Or
Bible.
certain things were omitted
There's a
from the
reason
Bible. Certain books were taken
most
out.
of the things were omitted taken out of the
Yeah,
Bible. People don't know about the Council of Nicaea, when
that's
people
right.
decided, men decided, and I'm going to say people, men decided what would go in, what would come out, what wouldn't be in there. And so when I talk about, when I mention the divine feminine in the book, many men, what are you saying? We should be, we should be women, or we should act feminine. When I talk about the divine feminine,
Right.
it must be brought back in, because we are a combination of both.
That's right.
We are a combination of both. And men have typically been taught to suppress those things that have been considered feminine,
Mm-hmm.
and raise up those hardened ideals of masculinity. We've been taught to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, but there are some people I realize that it are in religion that will not listen. I've been talking about this at least since the book has come out. I've been posting. Um, I'm certainly, you wouldn't be surprised to hear, I've gotten more response, for a larger response from women than I have from men.
Yeah.
And certainly that's not to discount the brothers that I've heard from that said they're going to be at the workshop
Yeah.
and that. But um,
But we have
hey,
to start
I
somewhere.
continue to
You know what I
do
mean?
this.
There has to be
Yeah, we have to start somewhere.
a starting
Yeah,
place. And we know that with
yeah,
any great movements, like we look at the civil rights movement and think
yeah,
like, oh, we look over the Washington Mall and we
yeah,
think that it started out
yeah,
with those thousands of people.
yeah.
No movement starts out
Exactly,
that
exactly,
big.
exactly.
But
Yeah,
when truth
yes,
speaks,
yeah,
and truth in that spirit, the
yeah,
divine spirit reaches
yes,
people, it
yes,
inspires. And so
yes,
movement and capacity building begins to take shape by one
yes.
person saying yes to the call. So I'm so
That's
glad, my
right.
brother,
That's
that you
right.
said
Right.
yes. You said yes to the call. Martin said
Yeah.
yes to the call.
Yeah.
When it came time to change
Yes.
Malcolm, he said yes to the
Yes.
call. When he went to
Yes.
Mecca and saw that there were Korean Muslims and there were white
That's right.
Muslims, he
That's
said,
right.
yeah. And so when he started to make that pivot
That's right. That's right.
and
That's
start
right.
speaking
When your eyes
when your
open.
eyes are open, because you can't unsee what you see,
Yeah.
can't unknow what you know.
You can.
And
You
God
can.
rest
You
his
can.
soul, our
And
brother
I'll tell.
Nipsey Hussle, God bless his soul,
I know.
doing the work in
I
his
know.
community.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And I will tell my Christian brothers and sisters that truth doesn't ever have to compromise your Christ. It might compromise your Christianity, but it will never compromise your Christ.
That's right.
If you are living according to principles, if you are living according to the principles,
Right.
then I'll tell people any day, Ber-Henda, I'm not trying to be a better Christian anymore. I'm not trying to be a better Christian. Um, I'm not trying to do that. Live religion better. I'm living into truth.
That's
And this is true. What we're talking about
it's
in
true.
this work is true.
Yeah.
It's true.
And we have to even
The survival of
re-examine that
humanity.
identity that we know as the Christ,
Yeah.
the identity that was turning
Yeah.
things over in the temple, that identity
Yes.
that was outraged,
Yes.
that identity
Yes.
that
That was
wept.
the identity that went, the identity that went against every
Come
rule and
on.
norm of the time
That
with women.
came and
When you
dismantled.
talk
Yes,
about
that's
Jesus
right. That's right.
with his interaction with women in the Bible, he overturned every norm, every Jewish norm there was um, about how to interact, or if you could even interact with women, if women could teach, if women could sit at your feet. He turned all that
All
over.
of them over. And for them to be there at his resurrection says something about the relationship, because if
Yeah.
you are there at a
Yeah.
person's lowest point, that says something to the
Yeah.
relationship. And so I think that part
That's
gets
right.
very skipped when we talk about
Oh,
the
it
women.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If your homeboys were the ones like, woman, y'all crazy,
Yeah.
who are the ones that he was really in love with? Because see, that to me shows me where the relationship,
Yeah.
what was it
Yeah.
taking poetic license? What were those conversations like with those women? Because you had to trust them
Exactly.
in an implicit way
Yeah.
for them to
No
know
question.
before your homeboys knew.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, not only were they there, they were the first to see him
That's right.
when he resurrected.
That's right.
They were the first to see him. So,
Yeah.
but
So,
we
so
in religious teachings, you rarely hear that teaching.
that's
You
right.
rarely hear that
You
teaching.
rarely hear it.
I don't know if you saw at the beginning of the book, as clear as it is, you rarely hear the teaching that God created them male and female, and just
That's
right
right.
in Genesis. But you mostly have grown up hearing the story about the creation story of man and then woman being taken from the man's rib. So you rarely hear that, let us make man in our image. We create the male and female. You rarely
Come
hear
on,
that teaching.
Spence. Come on,
It's right
come on,
there.
doctor. Come on, good doctor.
It's right there.
Yeah. Or in
It's
Proverbs,
right
when she
there.
talks about, I was there at the beginning, Lady Wisdom saying,
Yeah.
I was there at the beginning and I
Yeah.
marveled at his work.
Yes.
So,
I mean, it's right there. But so people have to, um, I always, I encourage people to be critical thinkers and look at that and not just follow blindly.
and I think
Blindly,
any good
over time.
teacher
Yeah.
asks that their students become critical thinkers. Come on, educator. We
Exactly.
ask that
Exactly.
that people
Exactly.
examine
Exactly.
critically, that you cite your sources, scholarly sources, that you
Exactly.
are able to concede the other side. I mean, that's like what debate 101, where you're doing your
It is. It
right,
is. It is.
when you're
It
doing your
is.
persuasive argument, you are to be able to stand on research and not just emotion, and be able to
It is.
understand numbers and
Exactly.
percentages. When when you're not just spouting, well, 50%, well, that could just mean two people, so think,
Exactly.
you know what I mean, like just
Exactly.
going
Exactly.
a little bit deeper. So my brother, I am so proud of you, just on a personal level, just
Well, thank
watching
you.
your evolution and
Thank
you
you.
walking this very difficult terrain, because it's not comfortable work, it's
Yeah.
not easy work. Looking at ourselves, it's
No.
definitely not easy
Exactly.
work, but you're
Exactly.
coming to the D, to
Yes.
Detroit, the Straits,
Yeah,
Because
right. You know what? And let me say this. Let me say this. Detroit. I'm here in Atlanta. Detroit is my home. With transforming love and sisters like you and everyone who has helped to bring this to fruition. I'm eternally grateful. That is my home. There's no better place for this book launch and book tour to happen. And so I'm excited about it. Friday is the I Am dialogue that takes place at the Frederick G. Sampson Foundation with Frida Sampson. She does that every first Friday. So we're just going right into that on 7:30 Central April Friday evening. And then the workshop, of course, with just the men from 9 to 10:30, 9 to
Mhm.
10:45. Women are coming in at 11. We'll go to 1:30. And then, of course, TLC on Sunday.
Absolutely.
TLC on Sunday.
So that people have a context too, because on our Facebook Live, people watch from all over the country. Spencer is coming into
Okay.
Detroit, Michigan,
Yes.
and will be hosted in several venues. And so when we talk about Frida Sampson, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Daddy, the Right Reverend Sampson,
Yeah.
um, who
Yeah.
is an institution not just here in the city but all over the world, instrumental in I call it
He
love
was.
ministry, righteous,
He was.
truly
He was.
righteous, yeah, righteous ministry. So please take down, notes, um, and share this with your friends, in your
Yes.
community, so that we can have this message be moved forward. That's what I love about the advent of this technology. You
Yes.
can be a lot of different
Yes.
places.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
You know what? It is so appropriate to be there on Friday on Lothrop because I first became a minister under Dr. Frederick G. Sampson.
Mm.
I
Mm.
first became a minister. I first got ordained and licensed in the mid 1990s by Reverend Dr. Frederick G. Sampson first. I remember running to his house, and Frida remembers it too, and telling him that I felt the calling, and, and we went from there. And so yeah, that's the church I grew up in, and so you know him, and anyone knows him. He inspired critical thinking. He was deep, and I feel him. I'm grateful for him.
Yes.
Even the more I continue on this path, the more I feel him. So it's appropriate to be there
Yeah.
on Friday evening.
Agreed.
Definitely.
Totally agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're
Yeah.
excited about having you. For those of us who are on my page, I'll be reposting the information, about the events that are happening this weekend. If you are here locally, we would love to have you, at worship at Transforming Love Community. 10 a.m. is when services, begin. And
Yes.
it is, even if you, consider yourselves, not the church type, we are
Yeah.
definitely not typical in any stretch of
Exactly.
the imagination.
Exactly.
If you want your spirit
Exactly.
moved,
That's why I
yeah,
love it.
me too. If you really want your spirit moved, you want to become, deeper in your walk, and you really want
Yeah.
to feel an awakening and a quickening of your spirit, you will hear truth, and when the truth is always told, and truth will set you free, and it will bring you
It really will.
into a life that you couldn't even imagine. So we invite you to come to Transforming Love Community on Plymouth Road in Detroit on the west side. Like I said, I will be reposting information, from our brother and his book and the work that he's doing, coming and working with Sasha Center. So it'll be the brothers first, and then the sisters will be able to come, correct?
Yeah.
So he'll be doing a
On Saturday. Yeah.
workshop, yep, with Omari Barksdale, noted poet, um, and advocate and social justice champion in his own right here, and greatly, appreciative of the work that he has done and is doing. And of course, Kalima Lockmama Johnson, who does everything, but she has done amazing and is doing amazing work with the Sasha Center.
Man,
Yes,
she holds
she
it
is holding
down,
it
doesn't
down.
she? She holds it
Yeah,
down. And I'm glad that she's not alone in that effort.
no,
That she is not alone. She's got you, and she's got some brothers, and what she's doing with the men now on every third Thursday.
yes.
That Omari is facilitating that piece, and so
It's so many
that's going to
head.
grow. It's time. It's time. It's
Yeah.
time. It's time.
It's time. And the only reason why I won't be there, I'll be at Lansing, I'll be at MSU, I'll be doing the Dia de la Mujer, the Day of the Woman. So I believe like this is the 36th annual convening of this particular conference. But yes, this is around the social justice work, particularly in the Latin and Latino X community. But they felt fit to let me come in and hang out.
No, that's gonna be tight.
Yeah.
Man, thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for the work that you're doing. It is invaluable. You can't, you can't put a price tag on it. It's just thank you. Thank you. And I know that what you put out comes right back to you.
Amen.
It shows in what you do, it
Oof.
shows in your face, it shows in all your in everything that you do. And so let's continue to do this work. This is only the
It's
beginning.
only the beginning.
Only the beginning. We're talking about what we're going to do in Detroit.
Absolutely.
But
And so anytime I'm available, this
great.
platform is available because I do understand that the empath has something on the inside of them that is just absolutely remarkable. That if you can carry someone else's experience, and I really believe that's what God wants us to do, walk in your brother's sister's shoes as if it is your own experience.
That's right.
And then do something to lighten his or her load.
That's it. That's it. That's it. I mean, it's simple.
Simple.
It's simple. It's simple. We don't have to complicate it. It's simple. And, so anybody listening and any of your listeners, just come with an open heart. All these events we talk about, there's no charge. The book is $10. Come, just show up.
That's it.
Just
bring
show
somebody
up.
with you. That's the other thing. Bring someone with you because again, movements start with a very tight group of individuals who are committed. And then it just expands. That spirit is like that. It's like a fire. It's like a forest fire that just becomes contagious. Let's just waft these flames. Bring your friends so we can waft these flames so that we can become champions for one another and speak truth to power. And let's, like you said, conversations in the barbershop. It's small. Conversations when you hear it and it's out of place and it's out of pocket. Speak to it. At the bar. Speak to it.
Yeah. We gotta speak the truth. I just watched a little video a minute ago that Charlemagne the God was making a comment, and I don't know what episode it was, and he was embarrassed or he felt at the moment that he realized that we all were men, particularly this culture of toxic masculinity, is it's being raised in rape culture. When you're raised in a rape culture, when you're raised, by those things and these images and everything. So it's coming. People are speaking.
They are.
People are waking up.
Yeah.
And so wherever they are, wherever we are, so and God is there, and we're going to continue to do it.
That's right.
We continue to do it.
Well, I'm a champion for you. I'm so glad that you're coming back home. As always, it'll be great to see you. So I will be there for sure on Sunday. But everyone who's under the sound of my voice here on this timeline, please reach out to Spencer directly after this video. Share this video, tag a friend in it, follow my page, the Be Intentional page, and also the Ber-Henda Williams page, because I'll be sharing the information on this, because I just feel, again, this is the season for all light workers to be banding together. I don't care what your religion is. I just say righteous work, righteous thought, and righteous work. Let's get in here and do it and have the tougher conversations, but also let us have a movement of the spirit. Let that be what our guiding force is. Let the spirit dictate, and let us be obedient to that call that we've been summoned, because I believe at this time we're being summoned to do a mighty work. So my brother, thank you so much for joining me. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you all for tuning in to, so thank y'all for tuning in for Visionaries Empaths Unite. We're here every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. We have a different visionary empath, and so my brother right here, I just thought was be dynamic. So actually, Spencer, you're the first man that I've interviewed on the series. So yes, typically. Typically my work is typically my work is with women, but I felt it imperative and very necessary that we have you on and have this, because this conversation needed to be had.
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
It really does. It really does. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll see you soon. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll catch you all next time.
Okay.
Peace.
All right.